Hello and welcome to lesson 2 of week 5. In this lesson, we are going to look at how to create tables within a database. We are going to look at the different data types that can be enforced on table columns. My name is Mildred. In the last lesson, we created a database called students, and we are going to use this database to illustrate table creation. So I've written the command use student to select that database and to tell the system which database we are creating the table within. In MySQL, to create a table, we use the create table statement written create table. When you write the create table statement, you give it a table name. So let's say we want to create a table called users, and then in a pair of parentheses you define your columns. So let's say we have a column. I'll just put a placeholder as column name. The column should have a data type and also the constraints. You can specify the constraint here. So once you do this as a comma separated list, you specify the list of all the columns, their data types and their constraints. And once you are done, take note that the last listing of the column name should not have a comma if that is the last one. And then once you are done defining this, you can now define the engine, which will be equal to the database engine. And for this course, we are going to be using the InnoDB, something like this, and then a semicolon. And this is the syntax. A better way to create tables is to say create table if not exist. So in the event that you already have a table called user, it is not going to also process. It just ignores the creation because it uses the if not exist statement. Now, to give a column a name, you can give your column any name you want that suits the information that will be in that column. But for the data types, we need to know the different types of data that we need to define for columns. We have numeric data types, we have string data types, and we have the date data types. Now, for string data types, we have a data type called char, something like this. And in a pair of parentheses, you provide the size. Now, what the char data type is, it supplies a fixed length string, so it can contain letters, numbers, and special characters. So if the column is going to hold a value that you know the length of the string in advance and you want it to be fixed, you are going to put a value, which is the size, within the pair of parentheses, and that value can be from 0 to 255. So let's say you want a username to be exactly 8 characters long, you specify 8 as the size. We have something called varchar like this, and in a pair of parentheses the length, which can also be from 0 to 65,535. Now, a variable length string is called varchar. So if you don't know the length of the string in advance, you want to allow users to be able to decide what value they're entering. You want this to be a string also, but it can contain letters, numbers, or special characters, but you're defining it as a variable length string and you don't know what the size is, so you can put a maximum that can range from 0 to 65,535. So like this. If for instance you are going to take a name of a user, you do not know in advance what name the users will have and how long the length of the name will be. So you can decide to say okay, 255, because you are sure that the length of a single name or the number of characters in a name might not be longer than this, and so I want to specify this value as the maximum size of values that a user can supply into this column. We also have something called binary, written binary like this. The binary is same thing as the char but stores binary byte strings. The default size is always 1, and so you can specify the column length in bytes. We have binary also, which is written like this for binary. You use binary when you want to store binary byte strings, but it's just like the variable character length like the varchar, but this stores binary byte strings. So the size parameter here will specify the maximum length in bytes. So remember that char gives you a fixed length while varchar gives you maximum length. Same thing with binary and for binary. Binary gives you fixed and for binary gives you maximum size. So the users can enter any size but cannot exceed the maximum that you specify. If you have something like an address column, you might want to use text. If you use text, you can specify the size, or if you like, you don't specify the size. We have blob, it holds up to 65,535 bytes of data. We have medium text, and this medium text holds strings with a maximum length of over 16 million characters. So I want you to research the different data types. Most of the time you find yourself using varchar and text a lot in most of the definitions, but you'll see things like medium blob, long text, long blob, enum. Enum is another important one that you will come across a lot, written like this. And then you specify a comma separated list of values. So let's say value 1, value 2, up to the last value. What enum stores is objects that can have only one value, choosing from the list that is specified in the parentheses. In this parentheses, you can list a wide range over up to 65,535 values in the list, and if a value is inserted that is not in this list, it will just null out or make it blank. We also have a set that looks like the enum, like this, and the set can have 0 or more values, and that value must be chosen from this possible list of values. In a set, you can list up to 64 values. For the numeric data types, we have, let's say we have a column that says user ID, for instance. We can specify a data type of bits like this. Now, when the data type is bit, the value must be a bit value type. And in the size here, we are going to specify a value from 1 to 64, where the default value or the default size is 1. We have tiny int, where you specify tiny ints like this. And then in the pair of parentheses, if you have a small integer that ranges from minus 128 to 127, or if it is not a signed integer, from 0 to 255. That size parameter specifies the maximum display width, which is 255. We have the bool, and when you have bool, it means boolean, 0 or 1, or true or false. So when you have bool, 0 is false and non-zero values are true. We can have small int, which is a small integer, and a small integer can have a maximum display width of 255, but the range is from 0 to 65,535 for unsigned, and when it's signed, like it has negative and positive, you go from minus 32,768 to 32,767. We have medium ints, and then we have ints. So int is something that you'll see a lot. In the pair of parentheses of the int, if you have a parenthesis or if you want a parenthesis, you can specify in that pair of parentheses the size you want. Normally, you can have the range. The range is over minus 2 billion to plus 2 billion for int size. And for unsigned, you can do from 0 to over 4 billion. You can read more about the different data types. There's a wide range of them, but these are the ones that we'll be using most of the time. We also have the float. Float is another one that you might come across a lot. And for float, you do a floating point number. In the size parenthesis there, you specify the total number of digits. So there are more data types that you can look at and see how they are used. But when you start creating tables, you are going to see that we have different data types that can be used for different column types depending on what kind of information the table holds. So let's quickly look at the types that we have that takes date values. So we have a type called date, written date, and when you use date, a date in the format of year, month, day is going to be specified. When you use date time, you're going to be doing a combination of date and time like this. When you use timestamp, it's going to be stored as the number of seconds since the Unix epoch. If you had a JavaScript course, you will see how the dates are displayed in the Unix epoch. When we have the time, it means we are specifying time in the format hour, minute, and seconds, and we have year in 4-digit format. So these are the data types. Your course resource is going to hold a list of data types and their definitions. You can research to see more SQL data types and what they are used for and how they are used. In the next lesson, we're going to look at how to define constraints on a table, and then we're going to try to create a table.